All right, Caroline, I don't know if you want to move to the next slide with the starting shortly now that we're past 10. But okay, just to do a check here, Caroline, should we begin the webinar?
Yes, we should be on the first slide, who we are.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. It is a lovely day here in Southern California. If you are elsewhere, hopefully the weather is nice for you. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about Avantiico, and we will be also talking, more about the upgrade paths and why you might want to think about D365 as your next enterprise resource planning or ERP system. So Avantiico, we are a Microsoft certified gold partner. We've been around for quite a while, actually all the way back to 2006. Many of you may remember us before we had a branding change and name change as AX Mentor. Today we are now called Avantiico to kind of match up more with the Dynamics 365 branding of Microsoft. And we focus purely on Microsoft Dynamics Finance and Operations and Dynamics CE. So if you'll see, we've got a lot of staff that have been doing this for a very long time. We've been doing Microsoft products. Some of our people will go back all the way to version 1.5 of Dynamics AX, what was called Exapta. So we've got over 450 years of collective experience across our team. We've got over 12,000 users that we support from some companies you'll see in a little bit later, some very, very large companies from public all the way down to some small to mid-sized companies. We do everything here on shore. We are a US-based company out of San Diego, California, and our employees are all based here in the US and Canada. Since we've been doing Dynamics 365, which is the latest version of Microsoft's ERP for large enterprise, we've got over 30,000 hours of experience with the product. And we do support companies in over 20 countries worldwide. So the product, as you guys may or may not know, is multi-country, multi-currency, multi-company, is designed to work with localizations across the globe. So making sure that all of the tax issues and regulatory issues work wherever you are, and you can have companies, spread across many countries at any time. So we were, again, as I said, we got over $20 billion in customers that we are working with, and some, again, that work on our solutions. We've written a lot of code, but the more and more as we talk about today, that's kind of one of the big changes is we're writing less and less code as the product becomes more and more full featured. And we're writing more apps. We're doing more things that are tying on, giving additional functionality. And we'll talk a lot about that with the new Power Platform that Microsoft has put out. All right, we can go to the next slide. So my name is Eric Schuss. I'm a senior industry analyst for Avantiico. Been doing this myself, been doing ERP for over 30 years, been doing basically Exapta coming up on about 17 years. Chris Matthews from Microsoft is one of our great partners with Microsoft. He was joining us today. We might be having some technical issues, so I may take over some of the presentation today for him, as he may not be able to we were not able to get him online for this presentation. So it'll just probably be me, and so hopefully I'll try to keep it as interesting as possible. Next. So the agenda for today, we're really going to be talking about, what is Dynamics 365? What are the components of it? What is the architecture? How is it designed? What are all the pieces, which is very, very, very full featured, as you'll see. We're going to be talking about why it's important now. What has changed in Microsoft, in the service and the product that makes 2020 a great time for you to move to D365. And why the cloud, moving to the cloud can be beneficial to your business. Many of you are on-prem, moving to the cloud, you're going to see that there's a lot of benefits and that are going to come to you just by moving to the cloud. Then we'll talk a little bit about some things that we're doing with Microsoft to figure out how to help you with this transition from different products, and how then Microsoft, what tools we have to look at your current environment and be able to figure out the best path for you to kind of take off and be in the cloud with Dynamics 365 in 2020. So Microsoft, the Microsoft solutions, we really are calling them now. We used to call them ERP, so Enterprise Resource Planning is what we used to call them. And today the terminology is changing because the whole infrastructure is changing. And we now talk about intelligent cloud business applications, because even though the products have gotten much more full-featured, they've grown, they've also become more compartmentalized, more adaptable, and modular. So you can have one platform that is sitting underneath on the Azure stack, and we're going to dive into all of that more, more in the next few slides. But you'll also see things like Power Apps and Power Automate working with D365, Office 365, Power BI, artificial intelligence, the Cortana, natural language processing, and IoT. Some really exciting things in those areas that we'll also touch on a little bit as we go through the presentation today. And again, we're going to talk about this one of the things that's most important is Microsoft is really here to help, and we're partnering with them to work with every company to come up with an individualized plan on how to make a move to the cloud, how to move to D365. One of the most important things is assessment funding. Microsoft will kind of help pay and give you some additional funding for having us come in, take a look at your infrastructure, and help build a roadmap for you. So one of the big things is it's hard to spend money to do that kind of analysis, but Microsoft's going to make that less painful, and we're going to work together with them to get you kind of the funding that'll help with that. We also, as you'll see a little bit today, glad to come meet you, start showing you the product, do some demonstrations, make sure that you understand what is the full, scope and relevance of the product, where it makes sense for you, what modules, what features, what functions, how does it relate to your current, whether general, Great Plains, D360, Dynamics GP, Nav, Business and Business Central. How do they all work together? How are they different, and which one makes the most sense? So we're glad to come out, do some demonstrations for you, and really get you to show the product and kind of dive into it. One of the other important things about this process is when to do an implementation like this, obviously it's a large task. And one of the tools that we have with Microsoft's been working on for so many years is something called Fast Track. Fast Track is a way of having an implementation that is going to be predictable, better, we can do better budgeting, better analysis of timelines, all the steps that have to happen. Microsoft has gone through this journey with so many thousands and thousands of customers. They've used that learning to create processes and systems that are going to help do this implementations. Things like Lifecycle services and other tools that really make it a much less painful than it used to be. Still not, it still isn't, just hit next or install an app, but these new tools do make it a much higher chance of success of every project when you're implementing with these tools. As I also we can talk a little bit about, Microsoft also has some qualified offers. They call it cash for clunkers, and that's kind of harsh. But if you've got an old system that you want to come up to speed into something more modern and cloud-based, Microsoft again has funds that we can bring to bear to help defer some of those costs. So a great way to help the budget, be able to get some relief from that, and be able to get some ROI on the products and services you've already purchased, and be able to hopefully get the project approved by your CFO a little easier when we start offering some of these, not just the assessment funding, but also on some financial incentives to actually buy the licensing and implementation. At the end, we're going to kind of just have a Q&A, but we'll always gladly come out, have a meeting with you, conversations, hop on a call, and answer anything that we can for you regarding the product, the cost, the process, our company. So anything we can do to help you explore your upgrade, we're here to help. So Dynamics 365, what is Dynamics 365? From, its evolution really does come from all the different products that Microsoft has purchased. They've taken all the learnings of all the products that they acquired and all the products and the internal development. And this is kind of the culmination of almost 20 years of work on this platform. So the platform of what was called Exapta has kind of evolved and grown. It was then called Dynamics AX, Dynamics 7. It's moved. It's Exapta 7, Dynamics, R3, R12. Lots of different variations of the product as it's gone through its life cycle, and each time a new release comes out, the product gets more and more full featured. So if we look at what does the product kind of contain from an application and functionality standpoint, we've got the sales side. So we're actually able to leverage the Dynamics customer experience, sales, and marketing. Very powerful. We have been winning against Salesforce pretty consistently lately. The product has matured to a level now that most companies are able to take it out of the box and be able to implement it and really get enormous benefit from the sales and marketing side, tying all the way down into the, from e-commerce side as well. So the new commerce solutions and e-commerce solutions have gotten much more robust, and that also includes the retail operations. So the product can handle companies in many industries, and we'll touch on that in a bit. But it really can handle every kind of company, whether they've got manufacturing, distribution, supply chain. They may have, as I said, retail operations, e-commerce operations, all combined in one environment, allowed for multi-company, be able to consolidate, multi-currency, all of those things able to work together. So another one that's really important is field service for companies. Field service is another product that Microsoft was able to go out, acquire a really great solution and bring it in and integrate it. So anywhere that a customer, if you've got people who need to go out and do service technicians, scheduling, scheduling boards, travel time, giving your techs the mobile solution so they can do the work and everything they need to in the field, that's what field service is all about. On the right-hand side, we hop over to the human resources, and that's another area that Microsoft has really put an enormous amount of time and effort into. In the old days, PeopleSoft was our kind of the big competitor go-to. Now we're seeing we've got all those features plus a lot more in the human resources area. Everything from the employee management, onboarding, benefits analysis. We'll see how it even integrates into tools like LinkedIn, so you can really maximize your hiring. Everything there is in the human resources side is very powerful. Now, foundationally, I think we all look to, as any accounting people know, everything rolls to the general ledger. So finance is incredibly important as a foundation. So Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance is its own application and can be implemented just by itself standalone. In fact, all of these are able to now be implemented as standalone applications. And that's really the big change that's happened in this environment and ecosystem. So the Dynamics 365 Finance, again, multi-company, multi-currency, allows for consolidations and localizations. So if you're a company today that is maybe just US based, but you're thinking about globally expanding, you can lay down the finance today. If you need to open operations around the world, all you're doing is adding companies. Those companies will have all of the rules, regulations, tax laws built in so that you can make sure that you're in compliance and able to successfully manage those businesses all in one place. The other part of the kind of the finance solution or the original Dynamics 365 or Exapta and AX is a product is the supply chain. So there we're talking about all of our advanced sales, purchasing, warehouse management, service, projects, a lot of areas that really fill out the rest of the product for any company that's doing manufacturing, distribution, has inventory issues. And again, all of this works together. If I'm using the retail operations, my supply chain for doing replenishment to the stores, to all my warehouses, all my distribution is all integrated into one unified system. The supply chain, again, as I said, is another area that Microsoft invested heavily in. They were able to go out and acquire some really top-notch products to really bolster the power and ability of areas such as warehouse management, transportation, logistics. In the old days, we used to have to, do some, if we had really complex warehouse management, we'd go out and get something like a High Jump or a Manhattan Solutions, an i2 for planning. All of those things now have the features and functions that are available in Dynamics 365 supply chain. One other area that I think is the final area in the bottom right, the project service automation. For any company that's doing engineering, architecture, say any kind of engineer to order products, the project services is great for being able to sell professional services, estimate it, and again, from the whole from cradle to grave. So from starting in the marketing all the way to bringing leads, track the sales, bring them as projects, have those customers, work all the hours, fees, items, expenses that need to go into projects, manage all the costs, manage all the budgeting, all the way out to service and end of life. Really can give you an entire cradle to grave, as I say, solution for anybody who needs complex project management and project accounting. So some really cool stuff there. So the product itself, again, all of it is called Dynamics 365. All of it works together, and we'll talk a little bit about how it's all integrated. Next. So we're talking about, if you look at this graphic, the Intelligent Business Applications platform, on the left-hand side, you're going to see the Dynamics 365. So that's what we've just showed you, is what does that whole ecosystem look like? But that's only one part of the entire Microsoft stack here and the platform. The other part to the right there, Office 365. More and more companies are moving to Office 365. We're having just an enormous amount of customers now that are all on the cloud-based Office now. And the integrations between that and the Dynamics 365 are incredibly tight, and we'll talk more about that later. But having all of that on one platform, single sign-on, users able to kind of bounce back and forth, be able to create a Word document inside the any application, automatically create documents, integration into Excel that's real-time, not just with exporting data, but real-time integration with security and business logic throughout the Office platform. Other platforms that we talked about, LinkedIn. So LinkedIn completely tied into your hiring, onboarding, all of those processes can now be completely integrated into the stack. So for D365, the human resources allows you to go to find candidates, bring them on, interview them, and run them through the entire process of finding the applicants, tracking the applicants, and onboarding, all integrated into LinkedIn and into the D365 human resources. Another area that's in this platform to the right there is the Flow. Flow is also now called Power Automate. Microsoft is all part of that Power platform. So Power Flow, what was called Flow, is really an amazing workflow engine. Now, the reason this is so important is that while the Dynamics 365 applications are integrated and have the ability for workflow in between those applications, Power Automate gives you the ability to now go across applications outside of your system and be able to really have business processes automatically triggered with approvals and values and business logic, even for external systems that you may have legacy systems. If I've got an external system that I'm using that I want to be able to have when I create a new customer in D365, it automatically gets created somewhere else. If I have another system where I may want when new items are created for that to be created in 4 other systems at the same time, Power Automate is amazing to allow these kinds of new integrations across applications. So one of the really new ways that we're getting rid of having to do complex integrations, a lot of companies are getting rid of EDI pieces, whether complex integrations they've had for a long time, and they're able to now use the Power Automate to handle those. We'll talk about Power Apps. Power Apps is a no-code, low-code tool that, again, is going to allow me to add functionality and features easily. and not have to touch code. And we're going to talk a little about why that's so important coming up and why Power Apps is so important. The ability to put kind of the powerful tools in the hands of advanced users and IT to kind of supplement any features and functionality that aren't built into the standard application. Power BI, again, we'll talk a little bit about that too, which is going to be the reporting tool, the business intelligence tool that Microsoft's been working on for so long. We've all been through kind of Microsoft's journey through the business intelligence world, but Power BI really is a culmination of an amazing amount of time, effort, and resources Microsoft's put in to give us some really great visualization tools. And we're going to hop in at the end near the end, we're going to hop into the application itself. You're going to see the application. You'll see some Power BI dashboards, workspaces, and you'll see how it all integrates. And all of that sits upon the power of Azure and Microsoft, giving you kind of all the tools of Microsoft's development environments, something called common data service we'll talk about, and all their connectors and gateways that really mean that you can have one platform that kind of rules them all. All right, next. So as I talked about, the Power Automate, Power Apps and Power BI are sitting upon, as well as all the Dynamics D365 products, are sitting upon the kind of like the infrastructure, the core technical infrastructure of Microsoft, called the Common Data Model and Common Data and Custom Entities. This really means that you're going to be able to integrate with almost any external system in real time when needed, even when some are in cloud and some are on-prem. So the last few years have been difficult because many companies had to make a choice whether they were going to keep things on-prem or move things into the cloud. And we've really finally gotten to a point where we are able to kind of get data from both places in real time, combine that data, present that data in a way that it is, accurate and validated, and be able to, have the data where you need it, when you need it, how you need it. So this ability now to kind of have this hybrid cloud, as we call it, where you might have some things on-prem and some things in the cloud, is one of the really new kind of technological leaps that we're moving forward with Microsoft. Next. This here's, kind of a graphical, showing you someone using Power BI on a laptop. Again, we'll talk a little bit about that too, because you can use these applications anywhere. So whether I'm on an app, whether I'm on a phone, I'm on a tablet, I'm on a laptop, I'm on a desktop, I'm tied to an IoT device, whatever it is, I'm going to be able to get that data. And Power BI is the key to be able to take that data from all of those systems and present it in ways that is actionable and useful. Putting the data for each user, what they need to see, how they need to see it, and how they want to see it, more importantly. Some people love graphs, charts, some people want spreadsheets, data. It depends. Each user can have the data presented through Power BI in the way they want and from any system they want. So I may have a dashboard like this in front of me, and this dashboard may be being pulled from 15 different applications all at once, presenting the data in unified fashion, in an intelligent fashion, making sure that what I'm seeing is real time and accurate. So Power BI is one of the tools that really has matured, and we're seeing that more and more companies are not having to get any kind of external third-party report writers. They're getting rid of a lot of old legacy systems that they had to do for reporting. We can do financial reporting. We can do almost anything through Power BI, and they really are some lovely, lovely, lovely visualizations. And we'll take a look at that in a little while. Next. Now, again, sitting there for, when you look at code and it's beautiful, that's one thing. I mean, when you're looking at graphs and charts in Power BI, it's beautiful, but from the IT standpoint, they want to be able to get down into the code. One of the most important things is, again, with the D365 platform, we have access to all of that code. We can dive in deep and take a look and understand exactly what the system is doing. And we have all the tools in Azure to be able to look at different data sorts, data types, what systems are running, using the Visual Studio toolkits to be able to manage our code. We've got GitHub integration, so we can, with Microsoft's acquisition of GitHub, we can really make sure that our IT department has all the tools they need to get as deep as they want to go, or you can kind of be as high level as you want. So if you don't want to see the code and play with it, your IT department is smaller and isn't diving in line by line, that works too. So the ability to kind of go as deep into the code as you want is one of the other powerful tools. Next. So now kind of the big eye chart, when I was talking about, the platform, this is kind of a technical slide. So for all you non-tech people, you can just kind of phase out and think about, the lovely weather today and all the craziness going on in the world. But if you want to dive in here, if you'll look, Microsoft, this is the Microsoft's entire ecosystem of everything IT, from compute, storage, networking, all of our content delivery networks, how our data is stored, how we use things like the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a passion of mine, and one of the things that's really exciting to me is how Microsoft is incorporating artificial intelligence everywhere. And in fact, that's one of their new platforms and programs is AI everywhere. So in the products, the D365 family, both on the sales, marketing, also in the master planning, replenishment areas, there's some really great artificial intelligence for machine learning, that the Azure Machine Learning Studio that Microsoft is bringing in. So if you've got a company and you know that your competitors are going to be doing AI and you know that you don't want to be left behind, Microsoft is, I think, the platform to go with. And I think that's an important thing to kind of remember is, in this world going forward, artificial intelligence is going to become more and more important. Artificial intelligence is going to become critical, and the competitive advantage to companies will be how they're leveraging the artificial intelligence. And if you are not on that journey, if you haven't started to go down that path, you may be falling behind your competition. So one of the things we also do here at Avantiico is we do consulting for artificial intelligence road mapping, take a look at where you are, help you determine, what are the right tools, what are some of the possibilities for your industry. All those things are really important, and built upon Microsoft's cognitive services and their machine learning studios, their natural language processing with Cortana, their bots. There's some new Power Bots is a new thing as well, where they're artificial intelligent bots are now for customer service, and other areas are available as well. So when you look at this big chart, this is really to kind of give you the understanding of why Microsoft, why choose Microsoft. And the thing about it is, the more of these tools you use, the more functionality is kind of exponential. So as you begin tying all of these together piece by piece, the value that comes gets greater and greater. The things that you have to develop in-house become less and less. Microsoft takes over, helping more and more. So it's really important to understand that there's so many pieces here that if you look at Microsoft, a lot of companies are, they go out and buy an application and then find out that, well, you know what, you already had a license to it through your Microsoft licenses, your EA agreement, or depending on how you're licensed, you may have access to a lot of these products that you may not be taking advantage of. So let us know. Get in touch with us, and we can kind of help you understand what are all the tools that you have available to you, or how to license what you need. Next. So that's kind of the technical platform, and here's kind of the business applications. All of this sits on top of what we just saw. And that, again, most of us, we all know about Office 365. So we know we got our Word, our Excel, if you're using OneNote, but things like Microsoft Projects, completely integrated into D365. So if you're using Microsoft Projects for project management, that's going to also work with the project accounting, project management, project service automation all together. So you've got, again, along the top, these are all some of the main Dynamics 365 applications we saw before. So sales, customer service, the field service I talked about. Another one's kind of really exciting is the asset management that has just come out for D365. So for internal equipment, forklifts, CNC machines, all these kinds of equipment that we can now start getting data off of, we can start managing through our service management, again, completely tied to my fixed assets and accounting, tied to my project management if I'm using them on projects. Everything integrated, everything available. And again, each of these applications can run standalone, or you can have any combination of these. So if you're using just finance and retail, if you want just finance and field service, these are all available to be kind of mixed and matched and combined to work together. And we'll talk a little bit about how they're even, again, the artificial intelligence, mixed reality, so VR, AR solutions for training and other areas. We've done some really neat stuff in those areas as well. And then again, over to the far right, we're going to talk a little bit about Business Central, which is the Navision product, has kind of evolved into its own kind of ERP with slightly, for smaller to mid-sized companies. But we'll talk a little bit about that and what the upgrade options and how, Navision, should you go to Business Central, should you go to D365? We'll touch on that in a bit. But again, the Microsoft ecosystem, we are just one of many of the partners that work with Microsoft, and we really understand the product really well. We understand this entire ecosystem. So any of these things that you see that you have questions on, you want to talk about, reach out to us. We can go into it and go down into the whatever level of depth you'd like to go. We can keep it high level, or we can get some of our super experts like Michael Oakes and some of the others on our team to really dive in deep, get into the bottom of how detailed, where you can go, how you can do this. And again, on that very bottom is where you see some really cutting edge technical stuff with the Microsoft, with the vision processing. We've got customers who are looking at things like being able to do inspection of products as they come off production line in real time using cameras, where they used to have a person standing there looking at something and grading it. We can have cameras looking at their products as they come off, grade them automatically with machine learning, get better and better at it. We talked about speech, so to have bots, if you want customer service bots, if you want to be able to have people who start talking to a chat bot, and either with voice or text, and then as they get to a certain point in the process, it what's called mechanically turk and hops over to a real person to then handle the process from that moment on. Knowledge bases, again, we talked about all the languages. In conversion now is a real-time language translation is a really neat thing that's happening right now as well. So a lot of things out there that Microsoft has created into this entire platform that you're going to be able to take advantage of. Next. So one of the keys to all of this, again, is that also, there's how customized you make the product. Really has an impact down the line. The product today, again, D365 is the evolution of over 20 years of companies giving feedback, Microsoft making customization, making modifications, upgrades, adding features, acquiring new functionality and pulling it all together into one unified application. Now, that doesn't mean that every feature and function is going to meet your exact need, but what that does is now you have Microsoft's Visual Studio, you've got SQL Service and cognitive services, all these tools, including the Power Platform, that are going to let you kind of make that determination of when do I want to use something straight out of the box, when do I want to change a business process I have to match the standard functionality, and can I do this with maybe a workflow rather than customizing code? Can I do it with using some of the machine learning tools to actually automatically figure out the best processes for a certain business unit? All of those things are able to be kind of, either use completely standard to do quickly, or go in and customize it exactly the way that you need. Now, one of the keys, though, is that the more you customize, obviously, obviously that's going to have some impacts down the road. And this is one of the biggest changes that we're seeing, is that companies more and more are trying to not customize the system, use the system out of the box the way it was designed to be used, to really reduce those problems down the road. And with the new Microsoft, we'll talk about in a little bit, there's a real great reasons to not customize the actual application and use these tools to kind of form the business logic, to change the business process, and make sure that you're going to have solutions that are sustainable and repeatable for years to come. Let's go on. Next. One of the other things here, just to make sure that we talk about a little bit of security. It's such a huge thing right now. We know that there's cyber criminals out there hacking companies. Companies are being, with ransomware. this is why you want to go on a Microsoft platform, because the security and the administration across these platforms is second to none. You know, and the ability for a user to log in anywhere and be able to work across things like Teams, to be able to work with Word, work with D365, their phone integration, all these things completely working together. And IT knows that from a security standpoint, it's as good as it can be. You know, dual factor authentication, so many great things that are just built into the product that make it so you've got the highest level of security you can get without having to go out and buy a whole bunch of different applications and packages and from different vendors to try to cobble it all together. You know, more and more companies are realizing that a one Microsoft solution is really the most secure, is really the one that's going to allow them to move forward and grow. And whatever the hackers are doing, you know that you're on the platform that the rest that, you know, has the most money going into R&D, development, threat protection, threat avoidance. You know, if you're on the Microsoft platform, you know, in the old days, we used to say that, you know, nobody ever got fired for buying IBM. And I think we're definitely in that position now where nobody gets fired for buying Microsoft because everybody knows they're the best. All right, next. So when we talked a little bit about this, you know, talked a little bit about how do people work? People work differently and want to work differently across applications. So the ability to have the tools in the people's hand where they need it. You know, more and more people are not tethered to their desk. More and more they're using tablets, they're using their phones, they're using other devices. And again, they're tied to IoT devices. So every one of the applications that we have talked about are all, you know, web-based, browser-based. You no longer have to worry about, you know, using all of the old technologies to log in remotely in these complex VPN products. You can use the Microsoft solution on any device, anywhere, anytime, and know that your security, your features and functionality is going to be the same. So the ability to deploy, you know, is so much easier now than it was just even a few years ago, and allows your users to kind of use the tools that we're all so used to using. All right. So now kind of why, you know, why moving to the cloud is beneficial. And I think that we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit about why what is Microsoft's modern lifecycle policy. And this, again, Microsoft has been, you know, evolving as a company as well. So how their support works has also been modified, has been evolving and changing. And this can have big impact to companies that are on older versions of software that haven't upgraded or are falling behind in support, have done customizations, but now want to think about moving to the cloud. So we're going to talk about that and why it's so relevant now. So next. So Microsoft, again, some of the terms that Microsoft has always used, and if you're currently on some of the products like Great Plains, Navision, etc., you know, mainstream support is what we're used to having. Now, mainstream support means Microsoft is, you know, putting out new features, they're fixing the bugs. You can contact Microsoft support for help. And that usually goes on for a period of years, a fixed period of years that Microsoft sets up. Microsoft many times will come back and go, okay, we're going to extend that a little bit more. But eventually that mainstream support comes to an end. When that happens, you know, companies have to make sure they're looking out far enough, because making a move or a transition from these products isn't something you do in just a couple months. It's something you really need to have a roadmap. You need to have a plan. You should be looking at least 18 months out to be sure that, you know, all the features, functions, and support you need are going to be there, because you certainly don't want to get to the point where suddenly the product's not supported and your IT suddenly has to bring that support in-house in a way that they're not ready for. When Microsoft, another term that we talk about with Microsoft is extended support. That's after the mainstream support has been sunsetted. And now Microsoft no longer is putting in new features, and they are luckily still doing security, you know, making sure that if new bugs show up, they'll be able to do that. But you still have to be able to be on support, and now you may be charged for every support incident that you have. So this can get very expensive for large companies, and again, just putting more and more burden on IT. and then no support. That's when we're beyond extended support, and now it's pretty much upon the company itself or your partner to help you keep those up. And again, that even gets more expensive, and if you've got mission critical products, you don't want to be in this situation where you don't have the ability to go back to Microsoft and get the support you need. So Microsoft had this, and it was called a fixed support policy program. So that meant it went for 10 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it was, through mainstream support and extended support. But Microsoft has, because of the way the applications have changed in this new cloud-based world, Microsoft doesn't want to try to keep up in the cloud all the versions of all the software that they're supporting. So Microsoft has been transitioning all of their products to what they call the modern support policy, and it really does change things. Next. So the modern lifecycle policy is really for cloud-based products. So instead of saying, okay, we're going to support this version for 10 years, Microsoft, because you're now accessing this in the cloud, Microsoft is hosting this for you and supporting it. They want what they call One Microsoft. They want as many companies as absolutely possible, all using the same application, the same version, so that they're getting not just the support is up to date, but new features. They can roll out new features in a way that was never done before. In the old days, you kind of looked at these products and said, okay, I'm on this version, I'm on version 7, now I'm going to go to the next version. I have to do an upgrade, and that upgrade would have to be something that you need to look at the product, you need to look at how many customizations you've made, have you added any tables, have you added any fields, have you done, what are all the custom reports you've written, and now look at all of that in total and say, what's it going to take to now get to this next version? And for a lot of companies, that was a big expense, a big commitment. And, a lot of them put it off as much as they could, and some put it off past the mainstream support, and some put it off into the extended support. We're talking to a company right now that is on a version of AX that is back to 2003 that they've customized heavily. And now they need to move to a modern system, and they have to, they have to kind of take this new concept that to try to move all the customizations that they wrote over the last 15 years and then put them into this new application would be an incredibly daunting thing, because probably 80% of what they modified has now been, those features and functions are now standard in the product. So how do they move those across, and how do they change all that? A lot of companies, that's a major change. So one of the things to just be thinking about is, if you are on a fixed support agreement and you've got if you're in even if you're in the main support, going into extended, make sure you're giving yourself the runway to be able to figure out, what is the move to cloud going to mean? What's it going to mean if I want to go back to a more standard version of the product? What features and functions have I customized that I don't need, that I'm not going to need to move across? And or is there business process change that I can make, rather than looking at, this is how we did this before? Look and say, here's the new product. This is how the new product functions. Here's the business processes. Why doesn't that work for me? That's one of the biggest changes we've been able to make in implementations with customers, is just adding that new sentence. Here's how the system works standard. Why doesn't that work for me? Rather than, tell me how you've done it for the last 20 years. Show me all the way the system is, you're using it today. Instead, take a look and really understanding what the system does, how it's designed, why it was designed that way, and why doesn't that work for me? Because it works for tens of thousands of other customers. Customers in your own industries are using this product. Why do you need to be unique and special? And again, if there is a unique and special business reason, if there's a way that you've got a business advantage because of the way you do things, those are the things you're going to move across. Those are the ones you're going to want to do, things that have real ROI. So with this new modern lifecycle policy, Microsoft is rolling out new features almost continuously. So now, rather than have to do a big upgrade every 3 to 4 years, you're basically just looking every few months and saying, here's the new features that are coming. Which ones do I want to turn on? Which ones don't need? And you can just turn those on. But you do have to kind of maintain that system and understand, what are the features and functions, what's the current version, because Microsoft basically is going to auto upgrade you to the new version. Now, you don't have to turn on new features, but you are going to be moving on to new versions. So any customizations or changes you make, there's an impact to every one of those, and we now don't do them in the standard code. We do them with what's called extensions and using Power Automate, using Power Apps. We have new ways to solve the problem, but it is a different paradigm and a different way of thinking. So this new one version of applications really is kind of Microsoft's new plan, and for companies, it really is a cost and time saver rather than having to do these massive lift and replace upgrades that we used to have to do. Next. So some examples here, if you could click one more time there. Thank you. So for any of you out there on Dynamics GP or Great Plains, here's a chart showing kind of the mainstream support end dates and the extended support end dates. And you can see that, some of the 2010, that's the going off extended support, at the end in October of this year, and other ones are going, year by year, coming off of, already came off of mainstream support all the way up to pretty much the 2015 version. So if you're on one of these versions, your kind of runway to be able to move to a different platform when this stops being, if it stops being supported, is an important thing. So many of our customers, we've got a very, very large customer. We're just moving from a Dynamics GP or Great Plains, the new version of Great Plains, and moving them to D365. And the great thing is with their Dynamics GP, they had to have a bunch of different ISVs. They had a bunch of add-ons. They had all kinds of external reporting tools. And with D365, we were able to replace everything with just the standard product. And just kind of as an example of that, even for companies on like Dynamics AX, we've had customers who back in 2015-16, we did analysis of what it would take to move those, all of their, what features and functions were not standard that they needed. And the difference was there were some 17 different features that in 2016 the product didn't have, and we just redid that analysis, and every single one of those is now standard in the product. So really understanding that these products, Microsoft, the D365 application suite, is getting better every day, and you can really do an amazing amount of the workloads that you used to have lots of external systems. So for the support, for Dynamics GP, if you're on Dynamics GP, this is another one where we can come in, take a look, analyze it, look at the roadmap, look at what Microsoft's offers are for moving from this application to the Microsoft D365, and really make sure that you've got a roadmap, that your executives are going to be able to trust and understand. If you need to go to the board, start talking to them early, and we're glad to help with those presentations and with that data gathering. Next. So one of the other ones, if you could give me another click, is Dynamics Navision. So the Navision product, was another one that Microsoft acquired back at the time they got Dynamics AX. Just real quick, I'll just kind of pop back to that if any of you don't know. Microsoft in the early 2000s purchased 4 different ERP companies by buying 2 companies. They were able to buy a company out of Europe and get to get Navision and Exapta, which were 2 beautiful ERP products out of Europe. At the same time, they bought Great Plains and Solomon, 2 really powerful financial products from the US. And they've basically kind of moved all of those products along on their own paths, but also been kind of bringing them together. And that really is what Dynamics 365 is kind of and Business Central are the kind of culminations of those. So the Navision product, and then Dynamics NAV, is now what we call Business Central. So it's a product as well that works really well for smaller companies. Not where the Dynamics D365 is for a little bit larger companies. Basically by number of users and by features and functionality, the Dynamic D365 is more complex. But there are a lot of customers that are going to be moving from Navision to Business Central because it's a pretty relatively easy move. But we've got a lot of other customers who are now looking at D365 saying, you know what, there's a lot of features and functions I need. And even though we had Navision, we're going to move to D365. So this is kind of one of the tools that or one of the analysis we can help do as well. If you're on Navision, you want to see what D365 looks like versus Business Central, we can come out and have those discussions, talk about where the roadmap is, what are the price differences, what are the implementation implications, all those things to be able to do that. And so if you're on Navision or Dynamics NAV and you'd like to talk about that, we'd love to come out and have a discussion with you about that as well. Next. Now, for those of you that were on the Exapta product, which then turned into Dynamics AX, you can see that the same mainstream and extended support issues are continuing to move on, and a lot of our customers now, a lot of customers, we're doing the upgrades from 2012 over to D365. Again, even from AX 4.0 all the way over to D365. Some of these are because of the features and functions. A lot of companies may have done a lot of customizations in the world of AX, where now, again, reanalyzing it, taking a look at the functionality in D365, a lot of those customizations get to go away and the standard functionality is able to be used. So one of the things that we really enjoy doing is kind of showing the D365, the new product, the new features, the new functions. If you've used the Exapta AX products, D365 is the evolution of that. So you're going to see, your users are going to take to it like ducks to water. It's not a big learning curve. The data conversion is easier. I'm not going to say it's easy because there is data, because the way the data structures, data normalization, Microsoft's done a lot of really neat stuff, added a ton of features. So the the process to move is something we've done a lot. We had a bunch of go lives just on the first as well. So we're very used to doing these kind of upgrades, excited about doing them, and would love to talk to you about your journey from Dynamics AX to D365 as well. All right, next. So I'm going to, if many of you may not have ever seen D365, so I'm going to, and bear with me from a technical standpoint, I'm going to hop here and take a look at the application itself. So if you haven't seen the application before, we're going to do that. So hopefully, I'll wait a moment. Hopefully you guys will be able to see the screen, the Dynamics, the Cortorso Entertainment System, which is our test company here for Dynamics 365. And what you're looking at here is a dashboard for a user. So now one of the things I'm going to tell you is that I'm logged in as an administrator, so I have everything turned on. This is every feature of Dynamics, of both the finance, operations, HR, projects, everything is turned on. So no user would ever see this, just so you know. But for demonstration purposes, we want to, many of you are across different industries. Some of you have production, some of you are projects, some of you are just financial. So kind of showing a little bit of everything here. But I wanted to touch on just a few features so you kind of get an idea of what the look and feel of Dynamics 365 is. So what I'm looking at here on the left, of course, is my calendar, and that's really nice because that calendar, again, can be tied into all of the work, everything I need to do, my tasks, appointments, meetings, work I need to do today can all be shown in my calendar here, and I can drill into that. On the right-hand side, we're looking at what are called workspaces. Workspaces are kind of the ability to have, what it is that each user wants, what each user needs, presented to them in a way where they can be as productive as possible. So if I'm a CFO, I may have my CFO overview tab, maybe my bank management. If I click on the CFO overview, it's going to bring up maybe my dashboard is what I want to see first. And this dashboard is all of my finance operations information. So I can have, and again, this can be pulling from my Dynamics finance operation. I may be pulling from other systems. I may be pulling from the CE, from my sales and marketing, to be able to pull information. I may want to drill down into my things and take a look. If you notice the organizational ID, this is telling me I'm in this company, USMF. So I may be looking at multiple companies all in one dashboard. I may be looking at only one company at a time. So the ability that you're looking at here is this is all Power BI. Power BI dashboards are available for any data that we can pull together and present it to each user in the way they see it. And the security, the data they see, the types of data is all customizable and configurable for each user. And if I want to, I can just drill through and see the table. I could drill through and see any other data that I may have underneath. So that ability to have a dashboard, if I'm an executive, if I'm a manager, to be able to have all the information I need at my fingertips, be able to immediately see it and act upon it. So if I wanted to go look at an expense and drill into that expense and wonder why that expense was done and create it into a workflow to have it reviewed, easy to do, right from the box, kind of in the way that I want to see it. So the ability for, we're finally at the ability where the systems, I think, are not systems we just put data into, but are systems that really help us do our job every day. And again, as we get more and more of the artificial intelligence in here, you're going to see some really powerful things coming to help each person do their business. One of the things I also talked about was that Microsoft is the features. There are new abilities and features that come out all the time. So if I look at the feature management workspace, which maybe an IT, my head of IT would be, and maybe my subject matter experts in those areas, I can see here and see which new features are coming, when they're coming. Do I want to enable them? I can schedule them and say, I want this to come in, or I can look and say, what are all the new features that are coming in the next few months? It's and which ones do I want to enable? So you can go through and just go through and say, as new features come out, look and see what's coming, what features and functions do I want to be able to take advantage of, which ones does my company not need, so there's not going to be an impact. But that ability to take a look at features and say, yes, I want that feature, go into a test environment. Another important thing is, we have multiple environments. We have the ability to have a production environment, of course, but then we have training environment, test environment, interface environments, multiple versions that can be all running at the same time. So I can bring these new features up and test, have my users try it out. Does it work? Does it not? Is it something we want? And then I can go ahead and do training and build training on that so that my people are ready for these new features and functions. So the feature management, again, this is kind of how you can either set it to automatically enable new ones, or I can go through it each time. So it's a really new kind of whole new paradigm on, I don't have to do the big upgrade. I can go ahead and take the features as I want it. So I'm going to just do a scroll here again. These workspaces, so many workspaces that are out there. Each user would probably only have one or two of these workspaces. The goal is each of these workspaces can hopefully have a customer be able to, a user be able to do 80% of their job from one or two workspaces. So I'm just kind of scrolling down because there's so much features and functionality here, including all the retail store stuff. And again, if I didn't turn retail on, none of this would be here. If I don't have a feature on, none of the complexity, I don't have to worry about any of those issues. But, just some amazing features all the way from payroll. Optimization Advisor actually is sitting there telling you how you can run your system more efficiently at any time. The customer credit and collections dashboards and tools are really quite powerful and amazing. So, there's so much here that, features and functionality that Microsoft has been adding that, just kind of coming on at all times. And this is actually when you drill into a dashboard, here's one where I'm looking at a credit and collections dashboard where I can go ahead and I may work across multiple companies. So I could have multiple companies that I work in and I don't have to log out. I don't have to log back in. I can see, I only want to see these companies. But here, these little boxes here are cool. These tiles. This tells me how many of each thing I need to do. So this kind of tells me, what do I need to do today? I've got some open cases that I'm working on in collections. I've got some payment journals I need to finish. I've got some customers over the credit limit. I want to work on those. And again, if I just click on it, it takes me right in and allows me to immediately work on whatever it is that I need to do. So right now I can go in, and now if you look at this again, this is the standard application. Looks very much like all the Microsoft applications where I've got my lists here, kind of very Excel-like, and I can use a lot of the Excel features and functionality into it. I can go ahead up here and see that there are different areas that I can work on, just like in Excel or Word. If I want to communicate, write letters, emails, if I want to go ahead and look at contacts, add somebody to it, maybe the collections, the payment AP person has changed. all of that, and I can look at financial statistics, customer statistics, etc. So that ability to kind of dive right in and get the work done, do whatever it is, really make actions is available right here in front of me. So the ability for some of these features and functions is really great, and we'd love to come out and dive into any of these, talk more about how they're used, why they're used at any time. And again, I can have my full analytics built in to all of each dashboard. So as a user, what I need to see, how I want to see it is right there for me. So a lot of really cool stuff. And again, the Power BI integrations are all there as well. So last thing I want to do is just kind of do the big picture, just so you really kind of understand when that comes up, that Microsoft has put so much into this product, making it just stronger, better, faster, more full-featured, really solid. And if you look here on the left-hand side, you can see these are the standard modules in the finance and supply chain. I mean, we've got all our accounting. A new one that I really love, again, is this asset management. This is the IoT integrated ability to be able to service all of my internal machines, systems, computers, everything with this new asset management that just came out. So it's really cool. Auditing, budgeting, cash. I mean, we can love to come out and show you the whole product. As you see on this left-hand side, the amount of features and functions are great. And again, the cool thing is based upon your company, you're only going to need certain of these, and all the rest won't even show up. You won't have to worry about them. You only have to kind of take on what you need to make the company successful. So I have been I've been talking a lot. Why don't we can we hop back to the presentation, Caroline? I will stop sharing. By the way, Caroline has been doing the producing, so she's producing this webinar. I want to thank her for her great work. We've been working, this is our first Microsoft Teams live event, and she's been doing a fantastic job. Morton has also been, fantastic in helping, and we've got some other experts on here like Garrett, and kind of keeping us going. So let's go to the next slide. So just want to kind of right now, we are here for you to help in this journey. We will. Again, Microsoft has some great funding opportunities. They can help defer some of the costs for this analysis, and again, work with us on licensing and work. You probably already have certain licenses for Microsoft, but if you want us to do, one of the things we also do is a license audit. We'll come in and look at what your current licensing is and give you suggestions on, there may be ways to save money and get a lot more features and functions. We're finding that a lot with our clients. They're not licensed properly, even if they're on the products, and doing the license review, we can a lot of times save them a lot of money and give them new features and functionality. Again, demonstrations, love to come out. As you kind of know, I love showing this stuff, or you can tell. So talk about that. We can bring out our project managers, talk about how we implement, how we use Fast Track, Lifecycle Service, and these other tools. With Microsoft, with Chris and his team, talk about what kind of offers we can give you, and really come out and just do any kind of question and answers and kind of work with you. So at this point, I think we can go to the next slide. And I think we are kind of ready for any questions and answers. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to type those in, and we'll see if we can see how we can help.
Thank you very much, Eric.
All right, Morton, do we have any? Did we? People are.
We had a single question, and that was about, is disaster recovery included in the subscription? And to that, looking into the new licensing guide, Microsoft licensing guide. Each finance, supply chain management, and retail subscription offer one production instance per tenant, and the production instance comes with disaster recovery. So I hope that covered that question.
Yeah, and I think that the key there is, Microsoft's infrastructure for the Azure, where this is all sitting, is gotten so powerful, and they've got a 99.9% uptime, SLA, but we have seen virtually no downtime due to any kind of infrastructure issues on Microsoft's side. They've really been solid about that. We've been really happy with that. Just to let you know, we use these products ourselves. So we use the Microsoft CRM, we use the Microsoft Microsoft D365 products internally. So we eat our own dog food. We use this stuff every day, and we'd love to talk to you about how we can help. So if I kind of went not as long as we had to go, but hopefully give you back some time in your day. If unless anyone has any more questions, we'll wrap it up, and really appreciate everybody attending.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric, very much for your presentation.
Thank you, everyone.